Alright, g'day, Mick again. Alright, today I'm going to have a quick talk about starfinches. I know the Gouldian finch one dragged on a bit, and but there's so much more I want to tell you, so there'll probably be a part two. Anyway, so starfinches is another one of my firm favourites. It's a pretty little Australian finch, another sort of semi-arid finch. You know, you find it inland. It's not a coastal bird. There was a couple of races in Australia. Well, there was a southern race and a northern race. The southern race was a bit wishy-washy and didn't really take off in captivity, and I'm not really sure of its population in the wild. I think it's either endangered or it might even be extinct now. I don't know. It's sort of disappeared. But every now and then you do see a wishy-washy bird appear in your bird, so you have to wonder if maybe the genetics are still there. But there's a lot of mutations with the starfinches, but the wild bird has got a beautiful grass green back. It's got a yellow flush through the belly. There's a bit of a green wash along the flanks with heaps of white spots. And the male has a red face. Generally, you know, all the wild birds are red face. There's a yellow face appeared, like the yellow face Gouldian appeared. It's just a variant or a mutation that's quite rare in the wild. But secure now in captivity, and heaps of colour mutations. And so once again, you know, the chances you've got a pure red starfinch now are almost none. You know, you might have a pair that look completely normal and they'll still give you different colour variants. There's mutations mixed all the way through them. But another one of my firm favourites. Don't need live food to breed these guys. They love live food though. They'll demolish it, but I've bred plenty on just half-ripe seed. Once again, the old half-ripe seed is the key with Australian grass finches, because they are grass finches. So their whole life revolves around grass. So, and the starfinches, they're no exception. They'll nest in the grass. Once again, back in the 80s, when birds were fully available that were wild caught, all the starfinches you got from the bird dealers were wild caught, and they settled into aviary life pretty quickly. You can't kill them with a stick. They're a tough little bird. And they all used to nest in thick, long grass, without question. That was their first choice every time, if it was available. Failing that, they'll nest in dried brush or in a live tree, in thick bush. They make a nice, tight, little compact nest. Not much of an entrance tunnel. Golden rule when you're breeding starfinches is, don't even look at their nest. Don't even look in the direction of their nest. You know, as soon as you do that, they're on you and they'll abandon. They'll abandon eggs, they'll abandon chicks. If you go poking around, it's all over. Starfinches will not tolerate inspections. They don't even like you to know where they are, so just pretend you don't even look in the direction of their nest. That's tip number one from me anyway. If you're not having much fun with stars, that's why. Just don't go anywhere near the nest. Don't. So, half-ripe seeds, you'll breed them quite happily on that. They'll do okay in a big cage. Okay, Brian just transported from one shoulder to the next. So, we've got... Okay, so starfinches, they love live food. They love white ants. They'll do quite happily on mealworm, but they've got a terrible habit of just killing all the mealworms before they even get a chance to eat them, and it ruins it for everybody else. You know, if starfinches get there first, it's a bad habit of theirs. I don't know why they do it. But they'll still eat a few. So if you've just got starfinches and you're going to give them live food, give them white ants, or termites. If you've got mealworms, yeah, but don't overfeed them, because a lot of them will go to waste. You know, they'll kill them all, and then they'll only eat 2 or 3 of them. So, and they'll generally just squeeze all the goodness out of them. So they don't, they enjoy it, but they don't have to have it to breed well. So once again, they'll build their nest. They prefer to build their own nest. I know in the States and around the world, you don't have much of a choice. You're all in bird rooms, but you're still forcing them to build in nest boxes. Starfinches don't go for nest boxes. Gouldians, yes. Your shaft tails or your long tails and all that, yes. Some will happily. Starfinches, if they've got the choice, they'll build their own nest. And their courtship's wonderful. The male picks a long piece of grass. Even the female will dance around with a piece of grass. She's got a bit of a courtship as well, which is sort of unique amongst the Australian grass finches. She sort of gets involved as well. But they've got a very animated courtship. He sings, he holds his head up high with the longest piece of grass he can find. He'll fly backwards and forwards a few times to get her attention, and then he'll pull up, and then he'll sing. He'll hop up and down. She'll show up. They'll dance around for a bit, and they'll, then they'll usually mate on the perch. It's a pretty quick affair. Everyone seems pretty happy with themselves after that, and they might do that two or three times, in a session when they're in full breeding swing. Usually between 3 and 5 eggs in my experience. Rarely I've had more than 5 or 6 chicks leave the nest. Very rare. If you do have large numbers of that, it's probably because they are getting a bit of live food, and that really gives the chicks a head start in the nest. But like I said, they'll happily rear their young on half-ripe seed heads. But offer that to them all year round. They are a tropical finch, so they do like the heat. And in a mixed collection, they get along beautifully with everybody. There's always a little bit of, you're getting too close to my nest politics, but that applies to a lot of the birds in there. Some are more aggressive than others. The starfinch won't hold a grudge. He'll just shoo you on if he thinks you're a bit close, and he's not going to make a big issue of it. So they have a good tight pair bond, but they love to hang out in a group. So, and Gouldings are the same. So, they're a flock bird, but, certain times of the day they'll pair off and do their things together, but then at certain times of the day they'll all come together as a flock to feed, drink, preen. It's a defence thing of, safety in numbers, which is big out there, because all the Australian finches live in fear of being eaten by something. So they're always wary, and they take all the measures necessary to increase their chance of survival. Apart from that, there's not a lot more to say. They really appreciate a planted aviary, of course, as all the Australian finches do. If you're dead keen on, breeding birds, you're going to do your best to imitate their habitat. If you're just having them as a show cage bird, that's all fine, but sort of keep in mind some of their needs and try and meet those to make their life as pleasurable as possible. They deserve that. And that's pretty much it. So they're great in the mixed collection. There's not a lot more. They're one of my favourites. And like I said, they're very hardy, so perfect beginner finch once again. And I can guarantee you, if you get yourself a couple of pairs, if you're going to get some starfinches, they can be a little bit fussy in choosing their mate. So ideally, if you can afford it, get a couple of pairs, or even 3, 4 birds. Even young birds that you don't know the sex of yet, doesn't matter. If they mature up together, you'll find pairs form early. And then you've got a good solid base if you're planning on breeding them, because bonded pairs make better breeders. If you put a pair together and hope for the best, they might breed, but if they don't like each other, there's always going to be some conflict, and you're not going to have the best results. But apart from that, firm favourite of mine. I recommend the starfinch to any beginner. Absolutely, 100%. Very affordable. Well, here in Australia it is anyway. And it's a good hardy little finch. It can take a bit of cold, they are tough little birds. Also, sexing the starfinch, male from female, is pretty easy. The male, as with most Australian grass finches, is just a bit brighter. The back's a bit brighter, the rump's a little bit brighter, the yellow belly is a bit brighter. But the most significant giveaway is the male. His face is a lot more red, or yellow, whatever the case may be, and he has a red chin. So, and on the hens, those white dots, they come right up to the base of her beak. She hasn't got a red chin, and that's just generally a dead giveaway. So if you're catching up birds at a glance, you can sex them straight away. Some hens have a lot of red on the face. They still won't have that red. They won't have that red chin. Those white dots they'll give her away. And of course the males sing, and they almost sing perpetually. It's like their pastime. If they're sitting there bored and they're not thinking of anything, they'll sing. And it's not a great affair. You've got to sort of listen to hear it. It's just a little, but you'll see them stand upright and you'll see their little throat vibrating, like oh, he's singing. Well, I can't hear it, but I know you're singing. So, but the girls know he is, and the boys do too, and they'll show up. And if you'll notice, it's a funny thing, the politics. If there's a pair feeding, or there's a couple of pairs feeding, and then a bachelor shows up, the males sort him out pretty quickly. They're like, move along, mate, nothing to see here. And the same thing goes for if a stray hen shows up. The hens that are already partnered up, they'll be like, move along, lady, nothing to see, you're not stealing my man. So, and it's funny, you see that in a lot of the finches as well. The pairs all stick together, and if a stranger shows up, like, hey, what's going on over here? It's like, move along. Unless you're partnered, you're not hanging around with us, mate. You're going to be too much of a disruption. So, and so they do that. They take care of their own. And yeah, that's another reason why you can safely house so many finches together, because the chances of them crossing, you know, hybridizing is really, 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 really low if they've got access to their own species. So, having said that, though, I had a couple of male finches once, star finches, just 2 males during a transitional period, I suppose. But they you know, they almost had a homosexual relationship. So they do really still stick to their own, even though, you know, there mightn't be a hen available. They'll go through the motions. They'll build a nest. One will wear the boots, but at the end of the day, you don't get anywhere. And as soon as you introduce them females, they're not mates anymore. They quickly sort themselves out. So they really do stick to their own. And you'll see that in a lot of finches as well. So it's best not to leave any finches alone on their own, because they will gravitate to the nearest relative in the family, if you know what I mean, and that can be disruptive. They just want attention. They don't want to be alone. They're you know, they're not designed to be alone finches. They're designed to be in little groups where they're safe, and you'll just have a stressed little bird. So don't keep finches on their own. That's just borderline cruel. Canaries are different. You know, some birds are canaries are different, but generally, grass finches, Australian grass finches especially, and a lot of the African waxbills, don't keep a spare male just so he stings and keeps you happy. That's just not fair. Well, in my opinion, it isn't. If you're going to keep birds, make an effort to even breed them. It's so much more rewarding, and spread the love and spread the cheer, and you're going to learn something along the way. But anyway, so I've rabbled enough. I love the starfinch, and I just can't recommend it. I can't recommend it enough for the beginner. All right, thanks. I should be done now.